Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Texte's another podcast. Today we have very special guests with us. They both are from US, and we are gonna know about their quarantine lives. First of all, we have Andrew, who is the VP and co-owner at Newswatch Television. And second, we have Michelle. She is executive producer at Newswatch Television. They both are gonna share their story, their quarantine life, and how people can still stay productive during this time because most of the people are feeling depressed. So first of all, I want you guys to introduce yourself, and then we will start with the questions. Yeah.
Okay. You want me to start, Michelle?
By the way, welcome. I welcome both of you. I saw you
Yeah.
forgot that. I welcome both of you for the podcast. It's really amazing that you guys joined us for the podcast and spared your time from your busy schedule. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. No. In terms of who we are and a little bit of background on myself, like you said, I am the founder of VP of production of Newswatch, a national television show. It's on AMC in the United States, and we're focused on finding the coolest technology, latest consumer tech, and just giving it out to as many people as possible, and making sure that voices are heard and cool new technologies are found. Also, the co-founder and executive producer of NWT Media. That's a video production group based in Washington, D.C. We work with Fortune 500 companies, associations, kind of you name it, to produce corporate videos, to produce explainer videos, anything you can think of. And also, as an aside, Michelle and I both are very avid travelers. We travel a lot together, and I think
Wow, that's cute. I think I have a lot of questions when it comes to travelers because I run a company here in Pakistan, which
Yep.
is directly linked with travel and tourism. We are the
Yep.
first digital travel guide in Pakistan. So I'm going to ask you a few questions regarding that. I
Awesome.
think that's amazing that you both are travelers. I
We're
love
big
traveling.
travelers. Yeah, yeah. I do. One of the things that's hardest. I do miss kind of the monotony of getting onto a plane, plowing through movies, and having a Bloody Mary. But new norm. So thanks for having us, though. It's awesome.
Yep, thanks for
I
having
think,
And one thing,
yeah,
we're supposed to be in Las Vegas right now. So
Literally right now.
we're both pretty upset that we're not at the pool in Las Vegas at the trade show that we were supposed to be at. But I'm Michelle. I'm, as Andrew had mentioned, as you had mentioned, the executive producer and host of Newswatch Television. And Andrew kind of explained what that is. But I'm also a producer of NWT Media Group as well.
wow, that's awesome. That's great. So, by the way, as he mentioned that you both are avid travelers, by the way, when you guys started traveling abroad, let's start with the traveling thing because
Sure.
that's my favorite topic. Yeah.
So do you want to start? Or you want me to go?
Sure. So
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I started traveling specifically for Newswatch probably in 2016.
Yeah, 2016, something like that. I think is when we started.
That my first trip abroad was to Turkey. We stopped in Istanbul and we had a long layover there, which was so cool. It's still one of my favorite places I've ever been, just because it's just such a crazy city and it's so cool. And then we also went to Barcelona, Spain, which we have returned to every year since then. So
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there is one thing, Michelle, I want to ask you one question. So we will go, yeah. So by the way, as you mentioned that Istanbul is one of your favorite city, I think it's also one of my favorite cities. I've been to Istanbul and I think it's a magical city. And you also mentioned Barcelona. Prior to Corona, because prior to this lockdown, I have to go to MWC for MWC conference.
well, I'm a person there because that's what we go for every single year. So
Yeah, so they both are amazing cities.
Yeah.
So yeah, Andre, it's your.
I have been traveling abroad my whole life. Actually, when I was very fortunate. My parents were big travelers, so when everyone was going to Disney World, which I still have not been to, by the way, and I'm still upset about it. But my parents were taking me to Italy, so I've been lucky in that sense. I've hit about, I think, 50 countries now at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, in terms of and I've traveled a lot with Michelle in the last 6 years. I think Honestly, we do this every year whenever we travel. We talk about what our favorite cities are and where, not just our favorite city to visit, but where you can actually see yourself moving to. And Michelle and I always say Barcelona, just because there's something about that city that's, I don't know, we feel at home now because we go every year. And Istanbul is obviously up there as well. I don't know. There's just something
By the
about.
way, which is that one country you visited and you want to visit it again?
Do I want to
Both
visit?
of you. Yeah. Which
Oh
you
yeah.
visited and you want to visit it again, and you will also recommend people to visit that.
Oh yeah. I mean, so Barcelona would be definitely a place that I will always go back to. I would heartily recommend anyone who's never been to Barcelona to go to. Other cities, I mean, we did a trip to Morocco recently, and Morocco was unique for us because it's just a very different culture than you have in the United States. And it was that, and just experiencing a different culture is always powerful. It kind of grounds you and makes you realize, what you have, and also makes you realize that you are not the center of the universe at all. And so that was very important for us. And I'd recommend anyone go to Morocco as well. So.
Wow. So, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah.
For going to Barcelona, the reason, I just love the food and the people there. Everyone's just nice and friendly and outside and walking their dogs, and they don't leash up their dogs. Their dogs are so well behaved. It's such a weird thing. They just walk with their owners. But just walking in the streets, popping in and out of places for food and wine and jamon and cheese, it's just amazing.
So you guys travel for, by the way, there's one more question that you guys travel. What is that thing which, like, you guys travel for work or you guys travel for leisure? When you're traveling for leisure, what is that thing in your mind for which you travel? Like to see the natural beauty? What is that one thing?
I can tell you, so traveling for work, obviously you got to do what you got to do for work, right? You get there, you have to make sure you're doing your job. We always make sure that part of our work is, we are only traveling for work when Michelle and I travel together. But we always make sure that we get some leisure in there. And when we do travel for leisure, what we always want to do is, I think I have like these rules, and I've told them to Michelle in the past, but it's all about experiencing the actual culture there. So one, always use public transportation, right? Because when you use public transportation, you're getting into the vibe of the people who live there. And there's something about that you get a little bit lost. You're trying to talk to people, you're asking someone in a different language, you get a little uncomfortable, and then you suddenly feel like you're in that city. Two, we always go to a market because we want to try the food. We want to. I genuinely believe that food is the heart and soul of a country and a culture. So we always go to a market. We try new things, try weird things, ask for recommendations. We say yes a lot. That's also critical when you're traveling. If you want to experience something, it's just someone asks you something, just okay, let's do it, and you do it, and then all of a sudden you're in a weird spot, and you've experienced something that you wouldn't.
So you guys love experiencing the culture, and yeah.
So
you guys want to enjoy like the natives wherever you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100%. That's why we also do Airbnb a lot for that reason.
By the way, anyone of you have ever visited Pakistan?
I've not. I very much want to, actually.
Yeah, by the way, let me tell you a little bit about Pakistan, that it's an amazing place. And maybe definitely you people belong to the media industry, and that it was declared the top travel and tourism destination in the world.
Oh, wow.
So we have from white sand beaches to the mountains to the meadows, we have everything, rivers, ocean, we have each and everything. And the best thing, all of above, is the people over here. You are going to love the culture if you are going to visit Pakistan. Whenever this corona pandemic is over, I invite you both to Pakistan. It will be amazing.
Be careful what you wish for. We will come.
No, I would love to show you around, to be really honest.
Yeah. I've heard
incredible
things about Pakistan.
Yeah. So even in recent newspaper prior to COVID-19 pandemic, people wrote that Pakistan is number 3 in the list when it comes to adventure tourism.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
I mean, you
have a lot of adventure sports over here.
It's a big country, so it's not surprising. I mean, you've obviously got beaches, you've got mountains, you've got beautiful people, beautiful food. Let's not
Food.
Yeah.
Let's like not ignore the food part. And I've actually know a bunch of people from Pakistan, and every single person that I've met, I will say it's probably filled with the most friendly people of any country. You guys are very welcoming
Thank you so
humans.
much. It's really, it's really good to hear that.
Yeah, for
So, by
sure.
the way, how much your life, both of you, it's a question to both of you, that how much your life has been affected due to this COVID-19? Like everything has been changed. You cannot step out. Like in the past, we step out to hang out with friends and everything about your personal life, and then after that, we are gonna talk about a little bit about your work life.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So personally, it's kind of tough. I live in a neighborhood with all of my family. So staying away from each other in our neighborhood is kind of tough and just keeping that distance. I'm kind of a homebody as it is, and I have a million home projects that I've been wanting to do. So it's not that bad, but I do miss being able to like hug my friends and go exercise and go work out at the studio that I work out at. That's been a huge loss for me. I mean, personally, it just stinks. Like it's not fun staying in the house all the time, but I'm just getting through it every day. So that's really all
That's
I
very.
can do. So
It's really hard to quarantine. And what about you?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I'm a very social person. So Michelle is a homebody. I'm definitely a homebody. I love my home, but I'm very social, and so not being able to see my friends, not being able to do a happy hour, not being able to work out at a gym, not being able to go to a restaurant, go to a bar, get a new car, those things I very much miss. I just miss seeing my friends up close. That's the personal side. It's also, it's funny because I also love going to markets and going to, the grocery store, and I'm very hesitant to do that right now. And so part of that experience that I do, I have to cut off a little bit. So that's been interesting. And, but I do think I'm starting to get into the swing of this new norm. And that's part of what's helping is just accepting this is the current reality. It doesn't help to sit and dwell on what we don't have. It's important to focus on what you do have. And so that's helping a little bit. And I'm also lucky that I work with some really good people. I see Michelle often. She's one of my closest friends. So that's a positive that I get to deal with her routinely. It helps pass the time.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I think that the thing you mentioned, that we have to accept this reality and we have to move on with this. I think this is something which is really important. We all need to understand that this virus is real, and now we have to adopt new ways that how to live with this virus and how still we can be productive during this crisis or pandemic. So,
Couldn't agree.
by the way, what's your take on that? That how you people think that people can stay productive and still, when someone is working from home, how they can still stay productive?
Yeah, I mean,
Because most of the people are feeling depressed nowadays.
yeah. I mean, I can tell you as a business owner, the way that my team and myself are staying productive is, we kind of made a decision a little bit early on to begin working from home, and everyone just kind of set up at home and created an office. And I think part of routine is there's positives and negatives to a routine, right? Routine, you can get stuck in a routine, but routine also gives you a little bit of structure. And so I think that having a routine, we have morning meetings every day at 9 a.m. Zoom. Everyone's on there. You have to have your camera on so that everyone, you get up, you shower, you get going with your day. And then we have things, we have to-do lists. We're set up, we're ready, and we just make sure we're nailing those things each day. We have deadlines. It's just a matter of creating structure in this new norm and being set up. If you're working from your bed every day, you're not going to be productive, right? But if you have a place that feels like an office where you can put your coffee, you can have your computer, it's plugged into a power outlet, little things like that create structure, I think are really important. So,
and I also think that there's a lot of balance there too that people need to do and to stay positive during this. So I'll be working on my computer for several hours, but then I'll have to go take my dog for a walk and just get outside and get moving, because I will go crazy if I'm just hunker down at my laptop for half of the day. So just doing things throughout the day, little chores throughout the house, going back to work, just to break up the monotony of just sitting at your computer.
Yeah.
It helps you stay positive and productive. Yeah.
Yeah. One
You
thing.
have to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
One thing I'll also say is that both Michelle and I have done this a lot. We talk about it all the time. We've picked up a lot of our old hobbies. So Michelle, I know, is baking a ton. I've been the beneficiary of some of her baked goods. I've been gardening a ton and trying out new cooking things that I've gotten deep, like a lot of people, into sourdough. And so it's like, yes, we're working hard, but at the same time, you're able to kind of dive into things because you have more time at home that you wouldn't have done before. And that, like Michelle said, that does help create balance and break up the monotony of work. So.
Yeah. So, by the way, how much your work life has been affected being the owner of a company and being the executive producer and the host? So, how much your work life has been affected? Definitely, there is an effect on every single industry. So, there on few industries there is a positive impact, and on few industries it has a very negative impact. Like few travel and tourism industry is totally closed. No one is traveling nowadays. But what about your industry and how it's going right now?
Andrew, you talk high level, and then I'll go into like our day to day.
Yeah. I mean, we're actually a little bit lucky. We're not in the hospitality industry. We're not in an industry that requires face to face. We're video, and we're television, and people are consuming both those a lot more than they normally do. And so that's positive.
At home now.
Yeah, and so that's positive. And we've definitely, we are. There is obviously, we've been negatively impacted, like everyone, in some aspects. We're not pumping out at normal volume, but at the same time, we're still being relied upon, and business is still going decently well. So that is a major positive. We're lucky. We're very lucky in the sense that our industry has not been decimated like some of the other industries have been that I mentioned earlier. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I will say at that. Yeah.
So for the day-to-day stuff, obviously we are in video production, and that requires somebody to go ahead and film something. Something has to be filmed, which usually involves people. So there's all those types of things where we have to work around, where we meet with each other a couple times a week to go ahead and do stuff. We plan everything in advance, so we're with each other for the least amount of time as possible. And then we're just really cautious of our space and making sure that we're not too close together. Again, time, that we're not with each other for too long, that we're constantly using hand sanitizer, like that. However, in order to go ahead and still produce a television show, we have to see each other. And that's just being an essential worker, as they say.
So, by the way, there is one another thing that which I want to ask: that what is the situation of COVID-19 over there in US right now, or the places you are in right now? What's going on over there? And what instructions government has given to the people to combat COVID-19 pandemic? How they can stay safe? And are people? There is one thing which is very important: that are people following the government instructions or not?
Okay. Yeah. So the U.S. It's heavily hit, right? So there is different sections of the country that are hit worse than others. We don't live in New York. New York is by far and away the worst spot, but it is also starting to plateau from what we understand. We live in Washington, D.C., which isn't horrifically hit, but it's on the East Coast, so it's been hit. There are different sections on the West Coast, in California, in Washington, it's been hit, and now the middle of the country is starting to be hit as well. It feels like the entire country is impacted by it, some more than others. That's the question about that. With regards to the government, it depends on who you talk to. That's the easiest and most politically.
By the way, when it comes to, like, I listen to your president, Mr. Donald Trump, a lot, and I listen to all of his press conferences. So, what's your take on that? Like, what kind of
listening to those?
Yeah. So the quickest answer is that, in my opinion, I don't think that it has been handled correctly. I think that there is a way to do it, and there are certain countries that you have seen that have done a better job than the United States has. And I would like to see a bit more structure and following of science in that regard. But in terms of communication, it is constant. There is a lot of communication from the government, from a federal level, a state level, and then a local level. It is very, very consistent. The negative being that there is contradictions from the federal to the local and state levels. And I have personally not been following. I've been following the instructions of the local and state more because it is relying a little bit more on beliefs that I have with regards to science.
Yeah, I think that's great. So people are in general, when it comes to like the people who belongs to your city, are they following the government instructions or not? Like, or people are still stepping up?
Yeah. I mean, and Michelle, you can talk about Virginia. I'll talk about DC because we don't live in DC, and Virginia are separate. But in DC, the mayor of DC has put in some pretty strict guidelines about social distancing, requiring masks and gloves when you enter an establishment for shopping, for food essential shopping, and people are following it very strictly, and that's very nice to see.
Really good to hear that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm a big believer that as much as a business owner, I want the economy to get going. I don't think that it is effective to rush into something and then be set back further. I'm a big believer in getting over the hump of the virus and then continuing on and not worrying about a delayed reaction because of increased infections because we came in too soon. So people in DC are doing a good job, is the short answer to that. And Michelle, you can speak to Virginia though.
Yeah, so I think in Virginia, we have pretty much the same guidelines and regulations that we need to follow here. I think that people, for the most part, are following it. However, I have seen people kids playing basketball games and stuff like that, where kids should not be in that close of contact with each other. They're passing the same object to and from each other. But I've seen a couple things like that, but for the most part, people have been doing a pretty good job.
Okay, I think that's great if most of the people are following the instructions and they are strictly following the quarantine. By the way, there is one more thing which I want to ask. It's a very generic question. Like when it comes to the people in general, like when it comes to the student, how education is going on over there right now? Is everyone is learning online? Because when it comes to the kids, the students who are in lower grades, and how the people are getting their education, it's going online.
Yeah, so I have two of my best friends are teachers, and they are online teaching, but they're trying to. So there's never been a plan in place for this situation before. So they're using this platform called Blackboard, and it's just been absolutely horrible for them, to be frank. It's just crashing down. They found all kinds of bugs. Students were hacking into the system and doing really inappropriate things. So it's made their lives really difficult to try and create any type of curriculum for their students. So what I would say is our teachers are trying the best that they can, but this is such an unprecedented situation where there's no plan in place, and they're just crossing their fingers at this point that something gets figured out before this.
Yeah, basically no one was ready for this pandemic, and
Exactly.
I think No, I was just gonna say, I think there's one other thing I would say is that I think colleges were probably a little bit more prepared for this because they do online classes so often, and so I'm not in college obviously, and it's been a while since I was
when it comes to schools, it's a bit difficult for schools. Yeah.
The positive side, if you want to look at it from a long-term positive conception, is that this is a learning point for everyone, and I think that as a result from this experience, the entire world is going to be ready for the next time it happens, because it's going to happen at some point. Maybe not in our lifetime, who knows? But this is a turning point where schools, industries, every possible I guess just point of life is going to be altered and it's going to be altered to be more resilient to situations where we have to hunker down at home, or we can't be in each other's vicinity, 6 foot. So there's going to be a change, and I think it's going to be a positive change. It's going to be a more cautious change, and it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get used to it. But in the grand scheme of humanity, I think it's going to be an overall, hopefully, evolving point for us.
Yeah, we're very hopeful. I think there is one more thing which I want to ask you people, that when it comes to the most vulnerable people, the people who are the daily wagers, who cannot afford the food during this crisis, what's your message for the people, that how we can donate to them, and what we people can do for that kind of people? Like, do we need to connect them to the NGOs who are working to combat this pandemic, and what people should do, like, and how it's going over there in US?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, every local accountants and every local government has a method for getting your donations to people that are homeless and people that are in need of food. I will say that in DC, they've actually done a decent job where there is set times where people with food stamps and people that don't have access to a lot of money can go into stores and get things that is just for them, and it's literally set for them, so they're not pushing other people. They're not battling for food sources or for toilet paper or for essentials. And so that's been a positive thing. Also, I know that there is a massive increase in donations within DC, and I would assume probably the same in Northern Virginia. So that's good. Having said that, there's never enough that is done for people that are in need like that. It's a worldwide thing where I don't know a solution. I wish that there was a better solution. It breaks my heart every time I see someone who's homeless. But and during this time, I still see people that are I'm driving my car and they're still begging for money and for food, and I want to do as much as I can, but at the same time you have to it's tough because what guideline do you follow? And so my thought's always been to follow the donating way, and hoping that those resources get to the people in need.
I think, as you mentioned earlier, that the world, this is so sudden, but for the next time we have to be ready. We have to keep in mind that this can happen again, and the world has to be ready for that. Even I was reading a newspaper, like in that it was written, it's an American newspaper. I don't want to mention the name, but they clearly mentioned that even the VCs are realizing that there are few companies which were heavily invested in past, but they are not like in the current pandemic. They cannot help to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. So VCs need to think that which companies to invest in. There should be more research. We need to invest in research, healthcare, and all of those things. What's your take on that, Michelle?
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely couldn't agree more. I mean, we just weren't prepared in any capacity for a situation like this. And it kind of goes to Andrew's point where he was saying that this hasn't happened before and things are going to change. I think that moving forward, that people are going to go ahead and put their resources in healthcare and things along those lines. And I think that they're also going to take value in these workers who are on the front line, who are delivering our packages, cleaning up after us, where before we weren't really cognizant of how much they helped move us forward, but now it's very apparent that their jobs are super important. So I think we're going to go ahead and just take a step back and put our money where we need it the most, where we didn't know we needed it before.
Yeah. So I think, there is one more thing which I want to ask you guys, that like you guys belong to a media industry. When it comes to media industry, what you guys are doing for startups? Like, can you please elaborate regarding to startups? Because there are a lot of startups. The ecosystem is booming in Pakistan right now. It's a baby ecosystem, but it will be, it's growing day by day. So when it comes to Pakistani startups over here, how your company can help them in branding or whatever? Like,
Great question. Thank you. There's a lot of answers to that, but basically, high level, what Newswatch does is we go out and find new apps, new consumer products, new technologies, anything you can think of that would be important to hear about, right? And there's a lot of companies out there that have created incredible products, incredible softwares, incredible offerings that are just not getting heard because the noise of new technologies is so loud. And they're all looking for a way to get heard. A lot of them are trying to get into the United States. A lot of them are just trying to have a video about themselves or get online in front of their target audience. So what we do is, we learn about them. We create a video or a review. We highlight everything about those individual product offerings, and then we air it on our television show. And we've got a massive audience because we're on the AMC network, which is a national TV show. And so we'll put that into our 30-minute television show that airs every other week, blast it out to the entire country.
Wow.
And then after that, we'll do an online campaign where we're putting it across all of our social media. We're doing Google AdWords to get them attention. We're basically doing our part at as much as we can to make sure that the little guys, the big guys, and the medium guys are all getting heard, because there's just so much cool and powerful and impactful technology that people just don't know about. And it's our job and our credence to find it and get it to the masses.
And I think in addition to that, just not only our distribution, but we have so much expertise in working with startups and figuring out what is going to be the most beneficial messages and points to go ahead and send out to an audience. So I think that we just have a lot of experience in working with these people and finding out what their goals are and how we can go ahead and facilitate those.
Wow, that's great. It means you guys not just only work with them on the branding side, you also help them in content and all that.
Exactly.
So you help them figure out the market and all that.
Yeah, so
I think
that's one thing that's awesome about it, is that it wasn't our intent to get to this point, but we slowly found out that in working with these people, because of our expertise in technology and just the industry and how long we've been doing it for, we end up almost being consultants to a point with some of these startups where they didn't realize who their target audience was and they didn't know how to verbalize what their offering was or come up with the value prop or anything like that. And in doing our work, we've actually helped a lot of them come up with it. And then on the other side, we produce this video, and it's a video that you can easily chop off and create, and then you have an explanation video about your product offering. So there's a lot of value in what we're doing, and we're hoping that every person we work with is seeing it too. So
I think that's a great job. It's also a social job, I'm gonna say, because when it comes to startups, as you mentioned earlier, that people don't know that which is their market, and that's something which is really important for the startup to find the right market fit. So if your guys are helping them in terms of that, I think it's a social work as well. It's a social job. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the worst thing you can do is have this awesome offering that's meant for target audience A, but you don't realize target audience A is your target audience, and you're just pumping money to target audience B, who doesn't care about your offering, and you're just losing money. And as a startup, you're bootstrapped. So the worst thing you can be doing is throwing money down the drain. And so getting the right product to the right people makes all the difference.
And yeah, most of the startups shut down because of this. They inject money on the wrong audience.
Yep.
And when you're investing heavily on the wrong audience, you're gonna drain out very soon, and you have to shut down the startup. So by the way, guys, it's really great that you guys joined the podcast, and it's an honor that you guys joined the podcast. And we will definitely, this podcast will be seen by many people here in our ecosystem. And they are going to see that how you people are helping them specifically when it comes to startups, because I'm connected with a lot of startups in Pakistan. So I think what you mentioned, it's something which is really, really important for the startups.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Thank you to the both of you for joining this podcast.
Thank you. The honor is definitely all ours. It's been awesome. It's been great to just kind of converse. And this is like our social thing of the day. So thank you. And, any startup who is interested in getting information to us about their product or their offering, can email us at info@newswatchtv.com. So please do that, and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. And we appreciate this so much, Usama. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed this. I agree. If anybody has any questions for either Andrew or myself, email info@newswatchtv.com or head to any of our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, at Newswatch TV.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
And for the audience, we will be live with another podcast very soon, and we're going to announce that on our social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
Take care.
bye. Goodbye. Take care.